Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Got Ben Fresco with us from Elan, and I'm super excited to chat about this Elan Playmaker 101. Ben, how long ago did the conversation start about twin tip production?
It feels like years.
Years and years.
Yeah, it does. We've been talking about this for a long time. But actual development time, I think we're looking at more like 18 months.
Cool. So we've had this ski for a while now. Probably got it, early December,
Yep.
I think? So I've logged quite a bit of time on it. Really fun, super fun as an all-mountain ski, fun in the park. I'm doing a bunch of things on it.
Yeah, you kind of take all the things that we liked about Ripstick and put it in a more playful package, and
Totally.
here you go.
Yeah, so would you agree that there's some undeniable Ripstick influence here?
Absolutely.
But it is different.
It is absolutely different. But we took the things that worked, that we know work really well from Ripstick, like carbon rods.
Yep.
But they live in a different place in the ski. It's just through the center of the ski.
Yep.
Right? It gives it that real positive edge feel and nice smooth ride quality. But it frees up the tip and tail to be a little bit more playful and surfy.
Pretty darn surfy and playful, I would say. So, yeah, super excited. We're here in Waterville right now. We're going to keep skiing, log some more runs on these skis, and then Bob and I will meet you back in the Ski Essentials studio back in Stowe. Don't think Ben will be there, unfortunately, but we'll chat more about this ski, kind of go through the details of construction. One of my favorite things about it is just kind of the way that you guys beveled this top sheet.
Yep.
So cool.
It doesn't just look cool. It actually contributes to the ride quality of the ski.
Totally, yeah.
It makes it really stout underfoot, but without interfering and giving it like a hinge point in the flex pattern. So
Totally.
It serves a purpose.
Yeah, so sweet skis, love the look of them too. So we'll meet you back in the studio in just a little bit and talk to you then. Bye. Hey skiers, here we are back in the studio. Bob, I was thinking about this just now. If you had taken me aside 10 years ago and said, in 10 years, you're going to be standing in an extra large, tall Elan hoodie talking about a freeride twin tip, I would have told you that you were a crazy person.
And that your main color themes were going to be white and pink. Yeah.
I would have been like, I don't know what world you think you're living in, but there's no way that's going to happen. And I think it's cool to see the journey that Elan has gone on as a brand. Like we saw it in Ripsticks, all mountain freeride skis that were super cool and different. And now we're seeing it in these twin tips.
Yeah, and here we are, they did it.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I'm fully decked out in Playmaker gear here. So thanks, Elan. Maybe a little bit overkill. I'm sorry if you're looking at too much white and pink over here. But here are the two new skis for 2024. Bob's got the Playmaker 91 next to him. This is the Playmaker 101. Obviously that one doesn't have bindings on it yet, so that's a pretty good visual example that we haven't skied that as much, although we have skied it. But we've logged quite a bit on this, or at least I have, and you've skied it enough.
Yeah, still reserving full judgment until I get on the 188.
I think all parties agree that you are better off on the 188.
Yeah.
Yep. But at least you've gotten to put it through its paces.
Absolutely.
So here it is, Playmaker 101. Elan kind of asked me to describe this ski, and the way I put it to them was it's like Ripstick 96 meets Ripstick 104 Tour, but the meeting happened at X Games.
Yeah, so there's definitely that influence, isn't there?
Right.
It's
totally.
It's kind of like that fun-loving ski, the more business-oriented, playful one, and then an interesting environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's a fun way to think about it. I also like the term Playmaker.
Sure.
Maybe it's a little cheesy. I'd be totally fine with somebody saying that's kind of a cheesy name.
Right.
I had fun writing the analogies in the written article.
Yep.
It
works.
kind of feels like a playmaker.
Right.
It's not it's not your enforcer. It's not the guy that's dunking on everyone. It's it's kind of your point guard here.
Right. The facilitator.
Exactly. He's putting together plays out there. He's stringing together sequences that you've imagined that you want to do. So before we go off on too many wild tangents like that, Bob, I'll hand you a ski so you've got something to hold.
Okay.
Do you want to kind of run through construction for us?
Sure. Similarities, there are some in terms of the build with Ripstick.
Yep.
So everyone's kind of familiar with the tube light wood core, which is a lighter weight wood core, and then they have zones milled out for carbon rods. And that's kind of where the construction starts to deviate a little bit.
Yep.
So whereas Ripstick has carbon rods tip to tail, and then Ripstick Black adds them in the center, this has two that run pretty much in the binding zone.
Yeah, kind of right underfoot. I think these like mount plates for the demo binding is probably a pretty good visual indicator of where that is.
Yeah, so two carbon rods put in along the side, leaving the forebody and the tail carbon tube free.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the deviation happens in terms of that construction. We also don't have vapor tip. It's just that wood core throughout.
And no amphibio.
No amphibio.
So we don't have like carbon line, anything like that.
Yeah, so this is about as symmetrical as you're going to get from Elan these days. And that's pretty much it for the ingredients. They have taken some liberties in terms of kind of the top dimensional construction.
Totally, and I think it's so cool.
Yeah, so trapezoidal sidewalls. Trapezoidal, I would say not sidewalls, top sheet really.
It's almost like double, because like the sidewalls are trapezoidal, but then there's another angle.
Right.
There's like two angles there.
Yeah, and we've always talked about this as just being a good way to get more angle with less work. So you're really kind of leveraging over the edge. It does that from a construction standpoint, and then when we get into performance, there's another layer of this like thinning of the sides of the skis, especially in your park application, that makes this really stand out. But it is thinner through the tips and tails. And then the pink portion of the sidewall, this is kind of where we get Ripstick Tour influence with that 360-degree sidewall. So there is 100%. Full sidewall throughout the ski, delivering really nice edge grip and good precision from tip to tail. So that's pretty much it. They didn't overcomplicate it. They definitely kind of made it a more simplistic construction than Ripstick.
Which works.
Which works for what they're trying to do.
They hit a $6.99 price point here, which is even with Ripstick 88.
Yep.
So I think that's like, you see that's probably where they're able to bring that price down. Yeah. Is it is slightly more simplistic, but overall, this is not just like a simplistic ski.
Correct.
There was some significant engineering that went into designing this thing. But no, I think it's cool, and I love that 360 sidewall.
Yeah.
Something really cool about that.
Just adds that next level of compliance to the ski.
Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe I'll take this back, Bob, to look at shape here. I had you measured this as I was writing it. And I think you said 38 centimeters of tip rocker and 27 centimeters of tail rocker. So there's quite a lot of rocker in this ski. That much of the ski is tip rocker, which is significant. And then there's a lot of tail rocker back here too. That's like really where we're differentiating from Ripsticks.
Right, on that end.
Much flatter tails in Ripsticks. And even, a pretty significant difference from Ripstick Tour 104. Yep. Like there's a lot more splay. There's more drastic splay in this ski. But very cool. A little bit of taper in the tips too. I think they've achieved a really nice spoony tip, which I think helps in soft snow too. Kind of boost the ski's float, and we can talk about that a little bit more. And then like a very kind of middle of the road turning radius. I believe it's 18.1. It's not listed on the ski for this 180, but
that sounds right.
It's not like super long. It's not super short. I think what does happen with this ski is it's a pretty soft flex pattern.
Yep.
So you can achieve a shorter radius turn than that 18 meter would indicate, which I think is definitely a highlighting characteristic of the ski. And then before we get into actual performance, probably the last thing I want to mention about this is not actually the production graphic. This is more in line, more representative of the production 101 graphic, those interlocking E's.
Yep.
This has factory edition all over it and a little factory edition logo. Basically, this was an early run that they opened up to shop employees. So maybe you've seen some shop employees kind of bopping around your local hill on a Playmaker 101. very feasible.
Yeah, and cool. They do that nice little thing there for,
I think
for
it's
you
cool.
and your skis there.
Yeah, just a little metal
No, I
label.
Like it. Yep.
Yeah, it's cool. So moving right along to performance, there's kind of three things I want to chat about. I feel like it's important to start with groomers.
Yep.
101 underfoot. This is a kind of free-ridey, freestyle twin tip, but I still think groomers is a good place to start the conversation.
Sure.
And you probably remember, because I'm sure we were skiing together, the first time I skied this, I didn't love it.
It's not an totally intuitive carving ski.
Correct.
You gotta find your point.
The sweet
You
spot.
gotta find it.
Yep.
I think that has a lot to do with those carbon rods being underfoot.
Yep.
And that's kind of where the emphasis in the carving.
And again, like,
begins.
that's a soft shovel with not much up there for materials
Right.
and a pretty thin profile.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to get a soft flex. So if you have skied like an Elan Ripstick 96 Black Edition and you skied this with that mentality and those expectations, you will be disappointed.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say.
As long as certainly if you really enjoy the feel of
Railing
that Ripstick
turns.
Black.
Right.
Yeah.
Driving the shovel, railing turns.
Yeah.
If you stay nice and centered on this ski and evenly weighted and balanced, it's a blast.
Yep.
It like really does make like some rewarding, nice round turns.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just you need to initiate laterally.
Yep.
Rather than fore aft, which is not like a totally new concept. It's just that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and it's amazing thinking that like within the same width category, and like yesterday I skied like a Black Crow's Justice.
With
So,
drastically different.
Yeah, 100 underfoot with
Similar
metal.
rocker profile.
Yep.
Yep.
And that thing turns like automatically.
Yep.
You know, whether you're middle, forward, back, it just turns.
Yep.
This you do need to take a little bit more of a, just a more balanced approach to it. And
Yeah,
just
more,
a little
more
bit
playful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you got to put some thought into it. You can't just.
Yep.
It's not just like a drive and rip ski.
No, exactly, which I think is fine.
Yep.
Because like Elan makes skis that fall right into that
Totally.
category. Even just Ripstick 96 non-black edition or 106s or Wingman. Like there are plenty of skis from
Right.
Elan's quiver that you can go out and just charge on.
Yeah.
This is not designed to be a charger. I think it's designed more to be like a dancer.
Right.
Which I think is a nice way to talk about it. So carving is really fun. There are some limitations to how you can carve.
And the softer the groomer, the more success you're going to have.
Yeah, you can
know,
really like trench in
Yeah.
on a nice soft groomer.
Yeah.
And like I had a phenomenal run down Perry Merrill that was just perfect
Right.
conditions.
Yeah.
And there it like just knifes right in and rips.
But a lot of the stuff we've been doing so far this year with more firm conditions appropriate skis, like
Right.
that's not, it's obviously not meant to be that front side carver.
Correct.
And like we've had a lot of conditions this year that
Frontside carver.
that's not your choice.
Correct. Yeah.
So as
Luckily-
long as there's that understanding, I
Yep.
think we're all good.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to steer people the wrong way. Like,
Right.
don't buy this just thinking that you're getting a rip and groomer skier.
Right.
You can rip on a groomer. You just have to do it the right way,
Right.
and the conditions have to be appropriate
Yep.
and supportive of that kind of skiing. Edge release is just about as easy as it gets.
Yeah, decent energy. It's
Yep.
not, again, it's not Ripstick Black
Yep.
pop,
No.
but the smoothness of it is
It's
well beyond.
It's like rhythmic.
Yeah.
It's one of those skis when you're making shorter skidded turns that feels really rhythmic and
Yep.
easy and intuitive and kind of forgiving.
Totally.
Like supportive of what you're trying to do rather than like fighting the tail.
Yep.
And I think that crosses over to its off-piste performance perfectly. Elan calls this shape like surf rocker.
Okay.
And
I'm
I'm
I
there.
get it. I'm into it.
yeah, it's just about the surfiest ski that you can imagine.
And like one of the cool things is it does that side to side surfing,
Yep.
but it also allows for more of this motion too, a more porpoising
Right.
motion because of the flexibility of the tips and tails.
Right.
So it's not just the ease of that side to side swiveling, but it's also that up and down motion.
Yeah.
So really, really cool how they achieve that.
Yeah. And it really just, as a skier, it gives you the feeling like you're
Yep.
surfing. You're like kind of using the terrain to your advantage and just
Yeah.
creating some fun angles and fun energy. I found it kind of nice and forgiving for me as a mogul skier. I am more of a slip and slide mogul skier rather than a true kind of zipper line expert. Curious your thoughts. You know, we kind of asked you nicely to demonstrate some moguls on it yesterday, and I'm curious how you felt in moguls.
Decent.
Okay.
You know, those were challenging moguls.
That's steep, firm.
Yep, that's a classic East Coast mogul line that we were skiing, and you know, you got to do it when you got to do it.
Totally.
But like,
you got to test skis.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, this is better, better for that.
Just a little narrower.
Yep, narrower, less tip deflection.
Yep.
But the ability to get that thing from one turn to the next is super easy.
Yeah, and that's what I felt.
Yeah, we listed a few other lightweight skis like the Bent 100.
Yeah.
I think that comes to mind in terms of being really easy to get, you know, from one turn to the next. Just very quick, very agile.
Yeah.
So like if you struggle connecting and linking turns in moguls and short turns, like that's the ticket right there.
Right.
You know, that's a really, really easy ski and a super fun way to connect and learn how to link those turns through the moguls.
100%.
And like ours were too firm yesterday or the day before to really get a good sense. You know, when I skied them in the woods and the bumps in there, that was a little easier.
Yep.
I will also say that I was on, I believe, that pair, which is more in the middle.
A little more forward than you'd want to go.
Yeah, whereas I was on the triangle line
Yep.
for the other ones, and I found that further back mount was way better.
Yeah, and we probably should have talked about that a little bit when we were discussing shape. And we can work that into our next segment.
Sure.
Before we get into that next segment, we have had it in some like kind of deeper snow.
Yep.
And I think it feels great. I think like you might run into some situations if the snowpack was heavier.
Yep.
Because the ski is so light, it might not like feel as easy. Where like a heavier ski, like something like an Enforcer 104 free, would handle like that denser snow. But if you've got really nice snow conditions, this is so much fun, and it floats beyond its width.
Yeah.
At least its waist width.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, lastly for performance here, and this is where we can talk about mount point a little bit, is park.
Right.
If a company's making a ski like this, I'm going to test it in the park, and that's something that I really like that we can do here at Ski Essentials. I hope we do more and more and more of it. There's some rail marks.
I was like looking at the ski when you were flexing it, and I'm like, what are all those like rust and red looking?
That's the red paint from stow rails, Bob. Some of you are probably shocked. That's what all my skis look like. They all have rail marks like that. So yeah, I've been having a blast on it in the park, and we'll talk about mount points here a little bit. I'll flip it around so you can see this side. There are basically 6 centimeters of recommended mount points here. It's not quite like the 10 that we get in a Bent 100 or a Bent 90, but still a big range here. This middle marker, little triangle, is 7 centimeters back from true center. I mounted this one the plus 3, so we're 4 centimeters back from true center. Wouldn't go further forward than that. You know, I think that's supported in the difference in tip and tail rocker. Don't want to go too far forward in the camber. So I would say 4 or 5 back from true center is going to be the sweet spot for a park skier. Whereas somebody like you, Bob, I would venture a guess you prefer it at the 7 back spot.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they even put those other.
What's up with these?
The further back lines, like
who would want to do that?
Touring?
I don't know.
I don't know. Someone looking for more pure powder performance, perhaps.
I just feel like if you put it all the way back there, and if you had even like an average male boot size, the back of your heel piece would be like there.
No, and like even just going back to the triangle, most recently, like I was like, that's it.
That's
you don't
want
to. Yeah, you don't want to go further than that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So we've tested it at 7 back from true center, 5 back from true center, and 4 back from true center.
Yeah.
In the park, I skied it 100% at 4 back from true center, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
Like the first thing when we first got on this ski, and I kind of like had some hesitation to how I felt about it, at least on like a groomer, which is a funny, you know, looking back, it's like funny that we like did that first, and it was like, eh. But through that experience, like at the same time, I was loving it sliding rails. So like I knew there was something there. And I think the more and more I skied it in the park and like the more balanced I got on it, that's when the rest of the performance kind of started to click. But something about it on rails is so much fun. Like it's very, very catch free and very light, which for me like gives me more confidence as a park skier.
It seems like balance is just a huge thing here.
Totally.
You know, both swing weight wise as well as fore aft.
Yep. Yeah. So loving it, just kind of jibbing around, sliding rails, bonking things. Stowe Parks put in that nice bonk feature. Bob, you
love the mushroom
sampled
bonk.
the bonk feature. And it jumps well too. Like I think there's probably a limitation to park jumps, similarly to there's a limitation to how fast and hard you want to ski it on a groomer.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Like if you took me to like X Games Big Air and we're like, you got to do a cork 7, I'd be like, boy, this is gonna be scary.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that a lot of those skiers use
cambered,
a little bit,
skis.
more substantial, stouter products.
And for people that don't know, like those skis come out of the race room.
Right.
Like what a lot of like half pipe skiers especially, but even some slope style skiers, they get purpose built race room skis, which is crazy. But I loved jumping on this thing. I took a couple landings kind of big, and then you could feel like how soft that tail is, and it just washed out. But like that's not necessarily a bad thing, because on a stiffer ski I might have torn my ACL.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of more user error than like the ski's limitation.
No, I think these should be more user friendly.
Right.
You know, and that's kind of the idea, is that it's not that competition oriented.
No, it's just a fun loving ski. So super fun in the park, super fun off piste, carves pretty darn well. I just wouldn't buy it like thinking that you're buying a carving ski.
Right.
So I think that tells a pretty good Playmaker 101 story.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting on the 188 in that, and hopefully same in this. You know, and just to touch on this briefly, like feels more torsionally stiff.
Yeah.
A little bit quicker edge to edge. You know, if you're looking for that more carving performance, you know, the 91 is going to be a better choice, but not quite as floaty.
Yeah, and like, you know, that's more like true kind of park width over there. So I'm looking forward to kind of putting that through its paces in the park and seeing what it can do. So Bob, anything else you want to add on this Playmaker 101?
Just like the biggest thing that they've done is following in their footsteps of just being a fun-loving ski company.
Yes, like Ripsticks have that
Ripsticks have it. The Tours had it when they came out with those. Even Wingman, like making carving fun. This is just continuing that trend, and I think they've really done a nice job.
Yep. So that's it. That's the Playmaker 101. Bob, I know you got to go pick up your kids. So
they can wait.
I don't know if you're going to partake in our last section here, but Elan's really good at the props. So we have a Playmaker Pilsner here, and you don't often have this opportunity to open a beer in a review. You can save yours for later, but I'm going to open this, and Bob will do a fake cheers to Elan Playmaker 101.
And definitely, I like how that graphic of the can lines up really well with that of the ski.
They did a great job.
It's a nice touch.
So let us know if you have any questions. I don't have any Playmaker Pilsners to share with our audience, unfortunately, but cheers to all of you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.